Iran's Revolutionary Guard is sending radio transmissions to ships warning them that, quote, no ship is allowed to pass the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to the EU's naval mission, whose operations aim to protect international shipping from attacks. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital export route for the Gulf's biggest oil producers, including Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Around 20% of the world's crude oil flows through it. Experts have warned that even a limited disruption could spike energy prices and fuel inflation. I'm now joined by DW Stephen Beardsley from our business team. Stephen.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Tell us more about the impact.
Yeah, the Strait of Hormuz is a geographical choke point and obviously an economic choke point in global energy shipments. And the thing is, it's not just crude oil and crude oil products, it's also natural gas, a significant amount of which comes out of Qatar. So much of what's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz is headed towards Asia, actually. So it's going to impact China, South Korea, India in particular, if there is any shortage. As far as we know, tankers are avoiding the strait right now. That means that there is certainly going to be a reaction on markets when they open. That's what we expect.
What do you mean by tankers are avoiding it? How? Are they going around, or are they just sort of hanging out in the ocean seas?
Tankers will either hang out on the ocean seas. They'll most likely seek port, to be honest, right? When there's uncertainty, because it's such a narrow choke point, because you have this convergence of maritime waters right there in such a short amount of distance, the better thing is to wait in port until something happens or to not enter in the first place. That's what we're seeing more of. Insurers are already jacking up prices, canceling policies, basically saying this is not for us to cover. Tankers get the message. They're not going to do it.
And what about the wider regional and global economy? What is the impact there? How are the markets reacting?
The markets are going to react first when it becomes later later Sunday U.S. time is when we're going to see oil traders start to really digest everything that they've seen right now. We expect that prices will rise and sharply, and that is because, again, this is a choke point, because tankers are already avoiding it, and because markets have already been eyeing this for a while. The fact of the matter is that oil markets have actually had a lot of slack in them over the past year. There's been more supply than demand. And so we've seen the international benchmark Brent hover around $60 a barrel. That's gone up recently to about the low 70s because of this risk premium put in, because of what's going on in Iran, because traders are looking at it and saying, well, something could happen there. Now we're seeing a very broad attack. We're seeing something that's more significant than what happened last year. We're seeing the spiritual leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, has been killed. That raises more questions. The Strait of Hormuz is said to be closed. We know tankers are avoiding it. All of this is going to be priced in. It's likely that prices are going to rise significantly. They could look at what's going to happen with this regime, what's going to be its approach towards oil exports in the future. Remember that Iran is it doesn't just control this passage or seek to control this passage. It also ships out considerable amounts of products on its own to China, for example, to other nations. So you're taking off a world supplier potentially. We don't know if oil facilities have been hit, to what extent they're capable of exporting. We also don't know about natural gas, if it's going to move at all. There are just no alternatives to moving this stuff beyond the Strait of Hormuz. The land options are not great. So it promises to be a hefty reaction on the markets. The big question is going to be how serious and how long is this going to be the case?
And beyond oil, I imagine it sounds like there's going to be higher prices across the board, both in the United States and globally, as in the big I word, inflation.
That's right. Oil is still the lifeblood of the global economy. It's incredibly important for producing, for shipping, for the cost of labor. People who drive to work every day, they're going to feel what happens to gas prices. Regardless of whether you're receiving oil that's come from the Strait of Hormuz, global prices as a whole will be affected from it. When you take oil off the market, then suddenly you have less to do, right? You have less to work with. Prices are going to go up if demand stays the same. And that's what's being expected. The question is, how big of a crunch is it going to be? We know that OPEC is going to meet later on Sunday, and it's probable that they could extend capacity, they could increase capacity to try and offset what's being taken off the table. There are secondary, tertiary effects of this. Think about Russia. From a European perspective, we've seen that the Russian economy has struggled recently because they can't make as much money off of oil production. What happens when the price of a barrel of oil rises significantly? Then the Russian economy starts to look a little bit different, right? But obviously, the inflationary aspects of this, another aspect we haven't talked about is the reaction of the Houthi the Yemeni Houthi rebels there. They've threatened, they are aligned with Iran. They've threatened to also be active in terms of threatening shipment going into the Red Sea. That's less oil shipment, that's more cargo shipment heading towards Europe. That could also put an inflationary reaction there. It could be an inflationary aspect that hits Europe as well. This is on top of recent tariff uncertainty, new tariff uncertainty going on right now. So the deck is being reshuffled again when it comes to inflation. And you have to expect that this could be serious.
Stephen, I have one last question very quickly. How long will everyone feel the impacts of all of this?
That's impossible to say. We just don't know what's going on because the depths of these strikes, what we've seen right now with the spiritual leader being taken out of a major oil producing country, we just don't know what's going to happen in terms of what their capacity is, what if there was a new regime, what its stance towards oil exports would be. We'll have to see.
Stephen Beardsley of DW Business, thank you very much.